welcome to the Synergy Podcast, the space where we redefine how we move, heal, and experience our bodies. My name is Arianna Montanari, yoga synergy teacher, beekeeper, and founder of Mielistrega Natural Body Products. Sustainability in all forms is the thread I've been following and nourishing for over 20 years. Here, we break free from the unspoken rules that tell us how we should move and feel. Here, we long for deeper connection with nature, with ourselves, so through intuitive movement, self-care, and self-awareness. We explore what it truly means to work with the body instead of pushing against it, to understand it rather than criticize it. So whether you're a yogi, a seeker, or simply curious about stepping into a more liberated way of living, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Here we are back to the Synergy Podcast. My name is Arianna Montanari and I am your host. And today I have a very special guest, a comeback to the podcast. Simon Borg-Olivier, my teacher, my mentor, the man who changed my life. Welcome, Simon.
Arianna, it's my pleasure to be here with you again. That's the nicest introduction I've ever had, actually. Thank you very much.
It's not over yet.
And you've changed my life as well. You've been very helpful and very lovely to me. Thank you very much.
Simon, you are an internationally recognized yoga teacher, physiotherapist, and the creator of the 5-dimensional flow movement system. You have over 4 decades of experience where you integrate the wisdom of traditional practices like yoga, like qigong, and martial arts with evidence-based modern science. We can say that your system of gentle movements focuses on creating flow, right? A dynamic, meditative state that fosters energy, that fosters calm and healing. And you and I are going to create a series of episodes where we will dive deeper into movement, yoga, breath, physiology, and I'm very, very excited about all the knowledge and wisdom that you will be sharing with us.
Well, I'm thrilled to be able to share this with you and everyone who's prepared to listen.
Thank you, Simon. Let's go. So today's topic is gonna go from more of a general overview over the world of yoga, the industry of yoga, and then we will go diving into epigenetics and the collective ideas that we have about our body, about yoga. You have studied directly with the teachers like BKS Iyengar, Patabi Joyce, TKV Desikachar in India. You have studied martial arts. So with this experience, with your background, what do you think is the contemporary yoga industry missing? And on the other side, what is it promoting?
Very interesting. To me, I love yoga, I love movement, I love all the traditional movement forms. And maybe I'll say it quickly with this. I got given this beautiful T-shirt. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting symbol set, and it can be interpreted in terms of martial arts, but the way I interpret it is it's living human intelligence expressed through energy, or it's also a little bit about how the human body and energy and movement are interrelated. And I just thought, since I'm talking to you, I'd put on a nice new T-shirt designed by a lovely person.
So good. Oh.
And I thought it was a good thing to do because during COVID, I had another T-shirt, which I wore a lot during COVID, and it looked like a very nice symbol. And then a few people from China wrote to me saying, do you realize that that T-shirt says mad person? Well, maybe it's just as true, because many people think that I'm a bit mad anyway. But mad is also good, eccentric, a bit odd, not following the rules, not following the paradigm. I think a lot of people in the world of modern yoga, modern exercise, they're not doing things wrong. It's just they've got a paradigm which does not give health on all levels. I look for health and well-being to be on 5 levels. I want physical health, physiological health, mental health, social health, lifestyle or financial health. I want all of those to start to be valued and appreciated and improved. And then I also work on 5 temporal regions. I don't want, like many exercise people do, to do a practice which is going to give me gains in the short to medium term future. I'm interested in that future as well, but I'm also interested in getting gains and results in the present moment while I'm practicing, immediately after, when I finish the practice, within the next few moments, the next day, the short-term future, the next few weeks, months and years, the medium-term future. But I'm also very interested in the long-term future. What will the practice you do now, if you kept doing it for 20, 30 years, how will you look? Because that's where I think modern exercise fails. And if I had to say, like I said, there's no wrong or right in my books. Everything has advantages and disadvantages. So the way I see modern yoga, it sort of turned into what, to me, and I'm in my 66th year now, it looks just like the aerobics of the 21st century to me, because in the 1970s and 80s, aerobics was very popular. We used to go to a gym and do these postures like star jumps, CA and stuff like this, and run around the room and do push-ups and what looked like up dog, down dog and stretches and stuff like that. A lot of modern flow yoga looks very similar to a choreographed aerobics class. And I'm not saying that's bad, but it seems to be all too much based on exercise and looking for something which is predominantly giving a result physically. In other words, it might affect your physical strength, your muscles and joints might get stronger, more flexible. You get a certain amount of cardiovascular fitness, but the problem is all the things are being done in a way which, to me, overstimulate a flight or fight response. And that flight or fight response is what's going to come on when the body experiences you breathing more than normal, heart rate increasing, and stretching and tensing and sweating. I mean, when you measure a sympathetic nervous system response, which we call euphemistically the state of flight or fight, often one of the measurements is done with a device that measures sweat on your body. So the more you're sweating, often that's a reflection of sympathetic overstimulation and overdominance of your flight or fight response. And we need a bit of this, but not as much as people think. We need predominantly the parasympathetic nervous system to dominate in our daily life. And that parasympathetic nervous system is that state we euphemistically called the state of rest, rejuvenation, relaxation, regeneration. That's the mode where our body feels peaceful, rested, and calm. But the thing is, for optimum health, what we need is the energy that tends to flow in times when we're often in a sympathetic state, like when we exercise. Because when you exercise, blood flows effortlessly, and that's a good thing. But it's usually flowing a lot because the heart is racing. And when the heart is racing, the body thinks it's stressful. But when blood is flowing, that's when you feel energized. But it's energy with this subconscious autonomic nervous system emotion of stress. And the best results for long-term physiological health come when you feel the relaxation state, which often people have when they're sleeping or just doing nothing and feeling relaxed, with the energy flowing that often happens when we're doing cardio or cardiovascular exercise. It's unfortunate that the word cardio got so popular because, as I see it, it's an Australian abbreviation that went all around the world of the full term cardiovascular health. And we do want cardiovascular health, and real cardiovascular health is where blood flows effortlessly, that's the vascular, while the heart, the cardio, stays relatively calm. And so I think what's missing in modern yoga and modern exercise is the need to put at least 90, ideally 99% of the practice time into the state where the body is having blood flowing effortlessly while your joints and muscles are working effortlessly. But a prolonged period of this type of effortlessness flow in the body, which we often call, for the elite athlete, the flow state or the zone, is going to give a better long-term result physically, physiologically, mentally. And also then, because you're not burning out, you get better social results. You can still have enough energy to be with your family and friends. And then you can do a better job. You have a better lifestyle, earn better money and things like this. I think that's the big thing that's missing is there's too much focus on just the physical results of a practice and in the short-term future. Not enough on let's make this practice feel nice at a cellular level and not be dominated by stress response. Let's make this practice move blood so we have effortless energy, but at the same time, there's no stress, no dysfunction, no strain. And you often hear the expression in modern exercise, which is this one of no pain, no gain, and other expressions like survival of the fittest. And if you're good, you're going to go to heaven. If you're bad, you're going to go to hell. And there's no free lunch. You've got to strive to get better. But actually, to me, real yoga, which seems to be a little bit lost, is be happy with how you are. Happiness is a choice, and you can be happy at any time. But as soon as you start saying, I want to get more flexible, I want to get strong, I want to get more fit, it means you're not happy with how you are now, and you're looking to some, forward to some future. And we've all done this, and I think many of us have done extreme practices, and you get to the point where you're working so hard that every morning you wake up, you're sore. And you still strive further because you're never going to reach that future the way this practicing is done. You're always looking for the work to, there's this expression that we train till failure. And when you train to failure, then the nervous system and the body's regenerative system says their muscles weren't strong enough. Their muscles weren't long enough. We see that you're not adequate. We need to make you stronger. We need to make you more flexible. You're a failure. And so every day you're left with this pain, which comes up often during the practice, then manifests the next day, and you feel stiff and sore, but your body's going, I'm making you sore. You are sore. You obviously failed. We need to get you stronger. You're not good enough. And I think at a subconscious level, that's not good. I train for success 90% of the time, 99% of the time. I try and do practices where my body feels good while they're doing. But like you mentioned before, my paradigm is I want to predominantly share what I'll call good energy and loving information through a pain-free functional body, where the good energy is the healthy blood flow, effortless blood flow with a low heart rate, and the loving information is that dominance of your parasympathetic nervous system, that state where your cellular body says, I feel peace, love, safety, trust in myself and the environment. And when you get this energy flowing through your body while being relaxed, it's an easy choice to choose happiness and have mental peace, mental focus. So that's, I think...
Is it really easy?
It's easier. Easier.
But it's less usual.
It's less usual.
Right?
Yeah.
Because while you were talking, I'm reflecting upon the fact that in the modern society, we are so not used to relaxing. And so while you were saying, searching for the feeling when we are relaxing, but when are we really relaxing? When we are constantly on our phones or watching something, listening to something, staying still and almost being in the boredom zone is very challenging.
Yes.
So I would not give that for granted.
I think that people only really get to this fully relaxed state when they're asleep. And, everyone says the importance of getting good sleep. And I always wish I slept more, but I have these aura rings and different types of devices, which I usually wear. And this tells me that over the last couple of years, I've averaged about 4.5 hours of sleep. And I'm sure I'd look more attractive if I slept more, but somehow I function. And so I think that my practice, which I've been at for many, I've been blessed. I've been given these practices, some of them been doing for more than 60 years now. I've been teaching for more than 40 years, you were saying, but I was blessed to give practices from a very early age. And I think they really make a difference because what they're giving you is that relaxed state that only comes to people really, like you were saying, when you're in your deepest, most regenerative cycle, which is sleep. So people need sleep, but the problem with sleep is even though you're fully relaxed, which is when your internal organs of reproduction, digestion, immunity, your organs of longevity will only really want to be operating. The nervous system will only say switch on organs of regeneration, that parasympathetic nervous system mode, when you're totally relaxed. But that state, by itself is not enough to make these organ systems effective, because relaxation alone will not make the organs work. It will make them switch on, but the energy, the information of the organs of regeneration, I'm talking about your digestive system, your reproductive system, the one that reproduces cells, the immune system, those organ systems need two things. They need a relaxed state plus effortless blood flow. And most of us in the modern world will either be resting to be asleep to get relaxed enough, or they'll be doing something which is, like you were saying, daily life stresses of mortgage, work, family, relationship, looking at the phone, how many horrors have happened today in the world. And so that's just stress with no energy. Or some people are doing at least something, they're exercising. And I often put modern yoga in that same category, exercising. But the exercise, if it manifests stretching or tensing or breathing more than normal or heart racing more than normal or sweating, past a certain level, that will be manifesting in the body and deduced by your nervous system to be you in a state of flight or fight. In which case then, although you might have blood flowing effortlessly, your internal organ system shut down. So we need the benefits of sleep and exercise at the same time. And I think that is the real yoga that's missing in the modern world. That is more akin to the real meditative state that you might see Tibetan yogis do, where they're sitting, not just sitting still, concentrating and covering themselves with a blanket like you see many modern meditators do, but sitting naked in the snow. When someone can sit naked in the snow and still have blood flowing effortlessly through their body, that's what I share. That's what I call sharing good energy and loving information. The true meditative state. I think the closest we come to this in the West is the athlete who is running in the flow state or the zone, where they're not running at their maximum. They're running at a level which they could do for hours. To them, it's easy. To us, if we tried to run next to them, we'd feel puffed up, but they're happy to talk at that level. It's a sustainable, engaging, calming, effortless, but energy-provoking, invigorating state. That's what we're looking for more in our practice. And I think that people are not doing enough of that. Not that anything is wrong, 1 to 10% of the time, stretch hard, tense a lot, make your heart race. Ideally, 1% of the time. Some people push it to 10 and get away with it.
Interesting. It was a few years ago, maybe I was 2-3 years into the synergy practice, so after studying with you. And I went to the gym with my partner. We went to this body pump type of classes. So dynamic, lifting weights. And at the end of the class, so there was literally 1 minute slowing down, and then the class was over. And I left the gym thinking, when do I relax? So I did have a practice by then that allowed me to relax. But the average person that goes to the gym, goes to this type of practices, when do they actually have those 5-10 minutes at the end of a class to slow down, to relax? And that kind of hit me, because I think that collectively we associate being successful, being well trained, feeling good, having that satisfaction with like measuring it in terms of how much we're sweating, how sore are our muscles the day after we trained, in increased heart rate, in, like you said, the no pain, no gain. So what I see also in my classes is that surprise that comes when people finish the class and share that they feel like they can. So you mentioned that you train for success. And in my experience, the synergy practice, the 5-dimensional flow, is setting up for success. So you're putting yourself in a flow, a practice that challenges you right where you want to meet challenge. And it's not too difficult, it's not constantly draining. And at the end of the class, you feel, I could do this. I can, my body can. And that creates a positive spiral rather than thinking, I'm not good enough. I need to stretch more. I need to train more. Just last week, a girl shared that she felt so accepted in the class and she felt so seen and whole that just the week before she went to a class and there was this girl standing on her head at the very beginning of the class and she felt horrible. She just wanted to cry. Literally, I just wanted to cry and leave the room. This is what she said. And so I think this is not of course, it's always about how you react to what's happening around you. But that is like a little example of the inclusivity and accessibility of the practice.
Yeah. I think that many people don't realize that statistically, and I speak as a physiotherapist here, it's only maybe 1 in every 20 people, 5% of the average adult population, that actually has a regular movement practice. What most people try and do is they try and join a gym, join a exercise class, join a yoga class, join whatever. But most people coming to their first class, 50% will never come back after the first class. And of the 50 remaining out of every 100, there's usually only 5 left at the end of the first year. And so only 5% will maintain any sort of physical practice, because almost all physical practice are based on this paradigm where people will measure their success by how uncomfortable it is, how sore you are the next day. And then some of them actually, they fool themselves to a certain extent. They actually train so hard that their body starts to secrete the hormones, the neurotransmitters of the fight or flight response, which include adrenaline and cortisol and endorphins, which are a little bit like the body's own coffee, cocaine, and heroin. And these drugs take away pain. This is why often people are not sore during the practice, they're sore the next morning when the painkillers wear off. And so, whereas some people, the ones who take up exercise, actually like that. Gee, I enjoyed it while I was doing it. And next day, I was really sore, therefore it must be good. And then part of the enjoyment for these people who work quite hard when they're doing it also comes when many people, and we're talking especially in certain modern practices like modern yoga to a certain extent, many practitioners will teach and practice, breathe more. You should breathe more. Breathing is good for you. Whereas logically, a fit person hardly breathes at all. In our deepest, most regenerative cycle of sleep, we hardly breathe at all. That's considered healthy. Someone who breathes more is considered sick. But by breathing more than normal, which is a common practice in modern exercise and yoga, is that effect will reduce blood flow to the brain and hypersensitize the nervous system, leading to an effect not so dissimilar to marijuana. Suddenly you're out of your head and into your body. And so when people exercise to extreme, as opposed to a minimal amount of exercise, minimal exercise is just uncomfortable. But when you go a little bit more hardcore, some people really like it because they're secreting these hormones of the fight or flight response, and they're breathing more, which gives this light-headed, headedness in the head and this nerve sensitivity. And they go, wow, I feel amazing. I'm on a pranic high, a yoga high, a runner's high, an exercise high. You go, really? This is not prana. This is not chi. I think this is just your body just on your own drugs like coffee, cocaine, marijuana, and heroin at the same time. That's a great mix. And people will love it. And so those people working that hard, that's the 5% of the population who exercise a lot. And they're enjoying it while they're doing it, possibly only because they're on drugs. And, it's exhilarating and stimulating, but then they feel the discomfort the next day when the drugs wear off. And then this whole combination, after decades of practice, is not allowing your nervous system and the circulatory system to be in that special state where you're relaxed and blood flowing at the same time, which is the signal to stimulate immune function, reproductive function, digestive function, all of the organs which are basically giving you longevity, which are allowing your joints to recover and not wear out. Because what we commonly see in the typical athlete when they get to 50 years old is we see multiple joint replacements. We see cancer, we see immune disease, we see all sorts of organ failures and dysfunction. You don't really get good results after years of exercise. That's what it seems like. So it's a very special system we have to look for, one which is feeling good, but not looking for pain as one of the signs that we're doing a good job, not looking for failure as one of the signs we're looking for doing a good job. Look for feeling good. What we often say, you've heard me say this 1,000 times, is make your practice feel like you're in a warm bath being massaged by someone who loves you. And people tend to more preferably come back for that. People don't come back to be in pain, to torture themselves. So, practice. Another one of my favorite axioms you've heard me say before is that, and this is a physiotherapy axiom, is that exercise is optional, but movement is essential. So if you can just get people to move their joints even a little bit, this will maintain the function of the muscles and the joints. They'll have a reason to be there if you move them occasionally, at least a little bit every day. But it doesn't have to cause stress. And by moving them, they have a reason to stay. By putting your consciousness in your cells, the cells have enough resistance activity going on. Everyone says that resistance work is very important. Without resistance forces on your joints, they won't get enough bone mineral density, enough tissue density. But I think the most important force you need to put into your cells is your consciousness. Because if the consciousness actually enters your cells, then the cells have a reason for staying. But if your consciousness never treads there, why would they want to stay? You die. Might take 80 years.
Yeah, and the cell works best. Like when there is a good cellular functioning, then the whole system, the whole body also functions better. Something that I often say in my classes and that really makes an impact is you don't need to suffer. And it's as simple as that. But each time receive the comment, yeah, that really resonated with me. I gave myself the permission slip to actually do a little bit less. Oh, like you say, when you invite to do 60% rather than going in 100,
Yes.
200%.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that starts creating that shift that you mentioned of doing a little bit less and more of the relaxed state, but with blood flow. So getting the benefits of sleep and exercise at the same time. And that leads also at how we perceive
Our
the world
environment.
around us.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
The practice, how we see it, and how much of our consciousness is in it.
I want to take a moment to talk about something truly special and close to the heart. Miele Strega, my own line of natural handmade body products. And as you know, I am passionate about moving with ease and feeling good in our bodies, and that extends to what we put on our skin. Each batch of Miele Strega products is crafted with love, for real, by me, using ingredients from my very own beehives and my darling bees, combined with the pure botanicals. Whether it's a soothing, luxury whipped body butter, a nourishing lip balm, or a gentle soap, everything is designed to support your body's natural rhythm, just like the practices we explore here. If you're looking for skincare that's pure, it's intentional and deeply connected and aligned to nature, check it out at mielestrega.com. And because you're a listener, I've got a special gift for you. Use the code SYNERGY10, spelled with Y and Y, for 10% off your first order. Now, back to our conversation.
In our last episode together last year, you talked about epigenetics. That is exactly this. So please talk into that. Give a description, an introduction to epigenetics, and then we'll take it from there.
Epigenetics is this idea that we live in a world where we've been told that our makeup, and even not just our physical makeup, but also our psychological profiling, the way we think, the way we feel, are all based on genetics. In other words, you've been dealt a deck of genes, you have no choice in that. And, they even go as far as saying, this person has more happy genes, this person has more sad genes. I'm sorry, the guy with sad genes, you're going to be just sad. No choice. But now it's understood much more and more and becoming more acceptable in the world of genetics, where they talk about epigenetics, where the prefix epi means above. What is the controlling system above genes? And what it seems is that we have many genes in our body, not as many as everyone thought, but these genes will not always switch on and express their product, which might be a protein or something like this. They will only be switched on at a time or place which seems appropriate. So one of my mentors is Bruce Lipton, who, if you want to get the best ideas on epigenetics, go look for the work of Bruce Lipton. His seminal book was called The Biology of Belief. And so he talks about situations which, if you interpret to be stressful, then, or if your body shows signs of stress, you're going to express the genetics of the stress response. But if you interpret your environment to be not stressful, you will express the genetics of the parasympathetic nervous system, that rest, relaxation, regeneration response. So he uses this wonderful analogy, which I always quote, where he describes a woman who's just had a baby, and a snake walks into her backyard, and she sees the baby crawling on the ground. There's a snake. She freaks out. She picks up the baby, and says, "It's a snake! It's a snake!" And she's obviously scared. The baby picks up on that, and so the baby and the mother are both expressing the genes, which will be liberating the molecules of the flight or fight response. But then the same snake crawls through a fence, and in the next door neighbor's yard, where the snake is now gone, there is another woman who's also the same age, also has a baby the same age, who happens to be a herpetologist, someone who loves snakes. And she sees the snake next to the baby, and so she picks them both up at the same time, and they cuddle. Isn't it beautiful, this beautiful green tree snake? And the snake winds around the baby's neck. But the perception that the baby has is that the mother loves this, so therefore it's a beautiful thing. So they both are expressing the hormones, which are coming as a result of the expression of the genes, which are manifesting in terms of expression from the parasympathetic nervous system. In other words, she switches on genetics of happiness, of trust, of peace. But the thing is, the same response, the same external stimulus was interpreted in two different ways. So the reality of epigenetics is it's not the genes that control you, it's the environment has an effect on which genes turn on and off. But actually, your environment is not as simple as the environment around you. How do you perceive your environment? Because if you think it's scary, you're going to express scary genes. If you think it's lovely, you're going to express love, peace, and happiness genes. And when the love, peace, and happiness genes switch on, then your nervous system is more likely to help you stimulate the adequate functioning of your organs of longevity, immune, digestive, reproductive organs. You're going to live longer, you're going to be happier. So epigenetics is not about just what the environment affects you, it's what you think the environment is. And your environment really is made up how the body reads your nervous system. So if you are exercising and you're specifically stimulating flight or fight responses in your body, making the heart race faster, making your breath more, sweating more, feeling stretch, feeling tension, your body's subconscious, unconscious nervous system is telling you flight or fight. It's going to be very, very difficult for you to be having genetics manifesting and expressing that's going to give you longevity. It's more likely going to give you stress hormones that ultimately can lead to an earlier death. I checked this because someone said to me that if you ask ChatGPT or some AI, what's the most important thing you can do to improve longevity? Didn't turn out, they did all the research. They said it's not diet, it's not where you live, it's predominantly about stress. Can you eliminate stress out of your life? And stress is essentially the same thing as this overdominance of the sympathetic nervous system, this fight or flight response. We need a little bit, but most people have too much. We need 1% of the time a stress response, not 50 to 100% of the time. And what you want is for 99% of the time to have a very calm nervous system, but you do want the blood to flow effortlessly, which is usually the only time blood is flowing for normal people is when they do this uncomfortable exercise. So can we find the combination, the junction? Epigenetics is really important because it's essentially saying you are the controller of your destiny. You can make the choice to be happy whenever you like. You just have to trust your environment. And, there's one thing in yoga which I always reflect on in the last few years is, the yamas and niyamas of yoga are often expressed a little bit sounding like the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not tell lies, thou shalt not do this and that. But this idea of honesty being the best policy, which is sometimes expressed in yoga by saying asteya, or not asteya, satya meaning honesty, or don't tell lies, or be truthful. And I'm thinking, is really honesty the best policy? If I really had to be honest, you look really ugly in those clothes today. Is that the sort of thing that we should say more of? Maybe you should think of something else nice to say instead. But actually, maybe it's not about the way we are honest to others that matters for your ongoing health, happiness, and longevity. Maybe it's about how we trust our environment. Maybe satya is about our perception of our environment. And obviously, there are threats in our environment, but not that many compared to how many good things there are. Surely if you walk into a room of 1,000 people, there might be 1 in 1,000 who's a criminal, but not every second person. Yet most people will look at everyone they meet and go, I don't want to trust you until you prove yourself to me. Whereas that's not even how the law works. The law says that we should assume someone's innocent unless proven guilty. But if you actually took this into your daily life, which most people don't, you could just trust your environment most of the time, and then your genes, your epigenetics will be manifesting peace, love, and safety most of the time. Of course, if someone does prove to be a risk factor or some situation does prove to be threatening, you'll find out, and then you learn in that situation to respond appropriately or stay away. But to assume everything is stressful and you're fearful of everything all the time, that's an invitation for disaster. And then to take that into your exercise and make your exercise actually stressful, that just adds fire to fire.
It does. I'm thinking that whenever I am in Italy, this is the mindset. Don't trust other people. Other people are dangerous. And it really reflects on how people behave and how society overall is doing. It's all about protecting, isolating, if you want, creating more distance. While when I am there, I feel so strongly that, like most people have good intentions. They're humans, so you can talk to them, you can create a connection. And I think many people are kind of longing for this type of connection. But referring back to epigenetics, then you need this consciousness. Like you need to be starting to be aware of your relationship with the environment. So how would you define the consciousness? Because it seems to me that epigenetics and yoga, they're kind of defining the same thing. So how do we react to things, right? It's like putting scientific tags or explanations on some notions that have been present in the spiritual practices for hundreds of years. So if we go to the concept of consciousness, we have the consciousness, spiritual, but how would you define it from a more scientific point of view, physiological point of view?
It's about paying attention. I think it's really about really noticing things. And I think the most useful form of embodied consciousness for health, happiness, and longevity is where you put your attention into making connections. And initially, those connections should be within your own body. And by manifesting thought into the cells of your fingers, just by putting consciousness into your fingertips, feeling, sensing your fingertips, automatically it makes blood flow there. And, of course, without putting that thought there, there is still activity going on in our fingertips. But there's something different between conscious thought and unconscious nervous system activity. And conscious thought, of all the life energy inside us, only about some people say 1 millionth of our nervous system activity is conscious, and 999,999 out of 1 million is unconscious. But for that little bit of consciousness, if you can put it into the different parts of your body, I think that's when we get the best result on an epigenetic level. Mr. Iyengar, I think I told you this before, in a group that we were with him, was a small group, and I say it because I never saw it written down, but I was thrilled that he said to us this. He said that yoga is when you make every cell of your body sing the song of the soul, which is not just beautiful alliteration. It really says something, and when you take the time to put your consciousness into different parts of your body, you feel suddenly connected. You feel alive. When I was younger, in my teen years and my 20s, I experimented a lot with out-of-body experiences. And at one point, I sat in a lotus posture and I was about to leave my body, and I heard the voice of my mother going, "Where are you going? The house is a mess. Get back in here. Look after." And I realized, why am I getting out of it? We've got an infinity of time after we die to be out of our bodies. We've been blessed to given this wonderful cellular thing to live in. So I believe it's really important we live in our bodies and recognize that our bodies actually go that little bit further. I mean, if we can feel the energy between our hands, we feel heat. And with different sensory devices, technological devices, you can actually read brain waves. You don't even need electrical cables now to read brainwave or heart wave. You can just see the field around your body. So actually what makes us up, our thoughts, our electrical activity, and this thought waves, you can read them from a distance. Our existence is not limited to ourselves. We really are connected to each other. We really are connected to the earth, the trees, the flowers, and the bees. But to really manifest that connection, it has to start within our own bodies. And so by taking in the time to put this, what I call attention, look at it, feel it, manifest it, this I think is the essence of the consciousness we most have to look at. And then when you get really good at looking at it inside your own body, you start to get better at sort of helping other people. I have that motto, which you've heard me say, purpose of life, enjoy your life, look after your body, help other people enjoy their lives. Enjoy your life, it's a choice. Look after your body, it's the only one you've got. Use it to help other people enjoy their lives, because I believe we're all connected as one. But to really feel the connection with others, you have to first connect within yourself. So by taking this dedicated time each day to put a little bit of effort into reconnecting with yourself. This morning and most mornings I start now with a brush, and I brush myself. It's a really good brush, and you feel the skin. In the classes you and I teach, we get people to rub themselves. Love to buy 20 brushes for a class to this. Is much more powerful. And then we rub our heads, but I have a really cool comb. It's a lovely Chinese wood, and I rub my head 100 times with a comb. They say it's going to make my hair grow back too. I'm looking forward to it. But the thing is, by connecting with ourselves physically, it's very simple. Rub yourself, move yourself, tap yourself, touch yourself. It's a very good thing. Connect with your body.
I was reading this book by Peter Levine, Healing Trauma, and exactly what you say. So one of the steps that he suggests in order to, or for people who went through traumas and have dissociated from their bodies, have detached in the perception, kind of shutting down areas of the body, is exactly that. So touching yourself, thinking about your hand and saying, oh, this is my hand. I can feel my hand, and my hand allows me to do this, this, and that. Yeah. And I think it's very powerful that you integrated this into the practice, because it's a more somatic tool, more a healing tool in what is often perceived just as a training, as exercise, but there is so much depth to it. And I really want to highlight the fact that it takes time, that to build all this awareness, it's a practice that requires patience and consistency, like over years. So I'm
Yes.
very grateful that you are sharing your years and years, decades of experience, because that is so valuable. It is so
Mhm.
valuable to see over the long term what is the result of this work.
Might I also say that, you asked this question, what is consciousness? Really, there is this subtle consciousness and there's gross consciousness. And so in Indian yoga, they talk about prana and they talk about chitta, where prana is a type of energy and chitta is this consciousness. Or it can be, in one loose way of saying it, there's more subtle versions of it. In China, there's something similar, which is qi, and the word I never pronounce very well is yi, something like this, consciousness and energy, same thing. So in both these cultures, they will often say that energy will go where your consciousness goes. And so, in a way, you could say that the energy flowing through your body is a manifestation of that consciousness. And so, in the world of Indian yoga, we talk about prana, and they say there are 5 different types of prana. There's the first one, which is also called prana, and it's in the chest and often relates to air coming in and out of the lungs. The second one is called aparna, and aparna is that region of the abdomen below the ribs where when you breathe into the abdomen, you feel your abdomen expand. That's called aparna, and that is not air. That's intra-abdominal pressure. Similarly, in your throat, you can expand your throat, and this is called udana. And then we have another one. The biggest type of prana in the body is called vyana, and vyana is essentially your blood pressure. It's the amount of blood in any part of the body at once. And so they're saying literally that vyana, this largest form of prana in the body, is blood. And so blood is mostly water. And I think water is this unit which can carry information. And so I think a lot of the information of consciousness is traveling through water, which is carried most easily through the body via the blood. And I think that that's the main purpose of our practice. And this is why I think that for some people, their consciousness alone can cause blood to circulate, like these yogis living naked in the snow. But for modern, normal, mere mortals like us, you need other methods. And so what you hear about us talking when we teach, Arianna, is we talk about the 12 different ways of moving blood through the body, only one of which is the heart. One is consciousness, or this awareness and thought. But then the other 10 in the middle include things like the musculoskeletal pump, the gravitational pump, the respiratory pump, external pressure pump, external temperature pump, one I call the anti-gravity pump, one which is to do with carbon dioxide shuttling, another one to do with centripetal forces, another one to do with co-activation of muscles. And so all these other methods to move blood through the body, we try and maximize in our teaching of posture, movement, breathing, mental control. And surprised to say, perhaps for some, many elite athletes are using many of these methods inadvertently, maybe without realizing, in their practices to get good results. So there are many ways of moving blood through the body in a way which does not need heart racing.
You really have this ability to explain a very complex topics like this. I think that this prepares for next episodes, how to move blood and about pranayama, about breath. So I really thank you for your time today. Before we wrap this episode up, I would like you to share your upcoming trainings, your upcoming travels for 2026, so that people come and study with you, or how they can connect with you also online. What a packed year. Let's make sure we squeeze in also a visit
Come and visit me.
to Stockholm. People are on holiday September. Let's make sure we make this happen when people are available. Thank you so much, Simon, for your time and knowledge and patience and the pedagogy. Thank you so much.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Synergy Podcast. I hope this conversation sparked something within you, a new way of thinking, feeling, or moving. If you love this episode, let me know. Share it, leave a review, or connect with me on Instagram at Mielestrega. And if you're ready to go deeper, check out my yoga offerings, come to a yoga class at the studio, and check out my handmade natural body products at mielestrega.com. Remember, your body is yours, your pleasure is yours, and living pain-free is possible. Until next time, move with ease and live with joy.